Story for us very carefully. At headquarters of Eskom in Johannesburg is our senior business reporter Liabo Setho. Let's go to her now at Megawatt Park. Liabo, tell us, is there power at Megawatt Park?
Surprisingly enough, Peter, there is power here at Megawatt Park, and we are back in load shedding season, despite the fact that here at the home of Eskom there is power, but it seems like the country has plunged back into darkness. You'll remember that in 2008 and also in 2015 we saw those spells of load shedding due to the same reasons that we see today. Generation lost capacity at some of the power stations. And with my drive from Auckland Park, where our SABC studios are, to here in Megawatt Park, I did notice that there was power in most of the places, and also in some of the business areas such as Braamfontein. I noticed that there is actually power there, which tells me that businesses have become a little bit more cleverer in terms of making sure that they have backup generation to make sure that business goes on in the event that load shedding happens. As you said in your intro, that it was announced earlier today, just at around 1 o'clock, that 4,000 megawatts of power will be now rotationally shared, up from 2,000 megawatts. What does this all mean for particularly our viewers at home? Does it mean that they now have to stock up on their candles? Let's find out from Khulu Phasiwe, who's the spokesperson of Eskom. Mr. Phasiwe, thank you very much for your time. What does this mean for my viewers at home? Should we be stocking up paraffin stoves and candles?
Well, hopefully we're not going to have a prolonged implementation of load shedding. Management is currently meeting with the Minister of Public Enterprises to find a quick resolution to the issues that are bedeviling this company. And I'm sure in due course we will have a permanent solution to make sure that we stabilize the system. You'll remember that the President and the country as a whole have been going abroad trying to lure investors to come here and invest. And clearly one of the things that investors would want, among other things, would be the stability of power supply, and Eskom has to work very hard to make sure that we allay the fears that investors would have, so that we can have investments coming through.
We are clearly not, you as Eskom rather, not doing a good job in trying to, we'll try to woo the investors to come and invest back into Eskom, which is, by the way, 419 billion rands in the red, and trying to make sure that it closes off the debt. You also have the headache with the municipal debt that's about 17 billion rands. How are you getting by in making sure that you try to get investors on board, you keep the lights on, and you pay off the debt?
It's a very difficult issue that management and the board have to juggle around to make sure that we remain sustainable, and also making sure that we continue to generate electricity. To generate electricity, you need money. And you obviously, currently, Eskom does not have that money. And as you say, we have a huge debt of nearly 420 billion rand. So clearly, we need to do everything possible to make sure that we get our money back. We are comfortable and comforted by the words that have been uttered by the President recently in his State of the Nation, saying that municipalities and everyone else who uses electricity have to pay for the services that they are getting from Eskom and other service providers. So we are hopeful that very soon COCTA, which is leading the interministerial task team, is going to come up with remedial plans as to what is it that municipalities need to do to make sure that they make the payments, but also government as a whole to assist us in terms of getting people in Soweto and elsewhere to make sure that they pay back the money that is due to us after the services that they have used.
Judging by today's unhappiness, when I look through social media, people are quite unhappy, of course, of the total 4,000 megawatts stage 4 load shedding being implemented. But they say that you're still going to NERSA and asking for a tariff increase accumulatively of about 45% over 3 years. How do we assure your customers, who are our viewers today, that they should still pay while you're not providing a service that's up to scratch?
Well, first of all, there's no direct link between load shedding yesterday and today and the tariff application that we have made. However, for you to prevent load shedding, one of the first things that you need to do, among others, is to make sure that you do maintenance on your power system. And Eskom has been doing some maintenance, but it's not adequate, which is why we're having these trips that we are seeing in some of our power stations. And maintenance as a whole needs money. And clearly, there's some correlation between the two, although there's not direct relationship between our 15% tariff application and the problems that we are sitting with now of load shedding. But yes, Eskom needs to turn around. Eskom has already devised a turnaround plan which has been submitted to the shareholder government, and the task team that was appointed by the president has also made their input there. And I'm sure in due course all of this information will, some of it at least in deeper details, will be made public so that everyone should know as to where we are headed. But the starting thing that we need to do, among others, is to make sure that this company turns around, especially in terms of our operational performance, so that we can also have a direct bearing on the financial performance of this company.
Khulu, what about reports that there are big suppliers of Eskom who are currently not in business now, which may have a direct link to the current load shedding? I see that energy analyst Chris Yelland has tweeted that one of your big suppliers is actually in financial trouble, and this may be linked to the issue that we're seeing now of load shedding.
Load shedding is a problem. Load shedding shouldn't be happening to start with. Load shedding is an aberration. When it happens, it should happen because of some of the things that you have absolutely no control over. But I'm not saying this thing is deliberate. All I'm saying is, obviously, as you know, for many years, starting from around 2008 thereabouts, this company at the time had taken a decision to do what they call keeping the lights on at all costs. And some of the maintenance that was necessary at that time was not done. And
including those 6 generators or the power plants that you say have tripped, was the maintenance not done there as well?
Some of the 6 that we are talking about today are new power stations. For example, some of the units which are offline include units from Medupi and Kusile. They were not there at the time, but yes, it's a combination of the old and the new power stations, and it's a big headache for management and the board and the minister that you have new power stations like Medupi and Kusile where we have spent a lot of money to have them operational, some of the units at least operational, and yet you have defects in those power stations. So the position that has been taken by management and the board is that the companies that are building those power stations, Medupi and Kusile, they need to pay for the defects that are happening there. In other words, they have to repair the defects at their own costs, and that plan has been activated and it's going to happen very soon. But it is worrisome, I have to say, that you have so many units which are currently offline because of technical problems.
And just lastly, what is more unfortunate, Khulu, is the issue that we have what the president last week at the State of the Nation address, speaking about the splitting of the Eskom into generation, distribution, and so forth. Yet we still find ourselves here, and you actually say that we could find ourselves here until April, if not July. And that is a concern, I'm sure, that my viewers at home are more concerned about.
Well, the splitting of the company is going to take a long time. I don't think it's going to happen over a period of a year or even 2, but obviously in due course, I'm sure the board and management will make pronouncements as to when this splitting is going to happen. But all I'm saying is the problems that we are sitting with today are a direct result of, I would say, historical issues. The maintenance that we were supposed to have done many years ago is now beginning to catch up with us. Many of these generators are simply just tripping automatically, and it's clearly it's an indicative of the lack of maintenance or not the inadequate maintenance that has happened, and this has to be reined in as soon as possible.
Khulu Phasiwe, spokesperson at Eskom, thank you very much for your time. Peter, that was Khulu Phasiwe. He's the spokesperson of Eskom, and talking about how historical mistakes that have been made of not maintaining plants are what are some of the biggest reasons that we find ourselves where we are today, where we are constrained with power, and could inevitably find ourselves in this position until July, and that is a long time off. Stage 4 of load shedding inevitably means that we have around about 8 hours still left of the dark. If you are sitting in the dark, you could expect that stage 4 of load shedding should be lifted at around 10 p.m. Tomorrow or later this week, I know that unions will be briefing about their thoughts, particularly on the splitting of Eskom. Remember that the president last week mentioned the issue of the splitting of Eskom, saying that it will help with, cost distribution of the various departments of Eskom, and probably that would help in getting other people on board to help it alleviate it from the debt issue that they're currently experiencing, and probably it will also help them, with the issue of the maintenance of their plants. Hopefully the money could come and help with the maintenance of the plant. We will be continuing to monitor this for our SABC News viewers to see what comes out. If there are any development that comes out, we will bring it to you right here on SABC, and it's back to the studio.
Liabo, thanks very much indeed. That's where we'll leave it for the time being. So not great news. Stage 4 load shedding right through to 10 p.m. This evening. And if the current constraints continue, we could be seeing this as a regular feature right up until possibly July. Not great news at all, Palesa.